Cutting tiny, tightly spaced letters in cherry is one of the fastest ways to expose weaknesses in your scroll saw technique. In this video, I'll show you how to handle sharp 90-degree turns, stencil fonts, and burn-prone hardwood using a blade choice that may surprise you. The big retail promotion in February, of course, is Valentine's Day. This is from Steve Good. He calls it Word Hearts. I'll give you a link in the description. There are 12 different designs here. I'm making 6 of the 12. I'm using 4/4 cherry for these hearts. It was about 7/8 thick, so I planed it down to 3/4. I drilled the 1/16 inch pilot holes, and it took a bit of concentration to keep them within lines for each letter. As you can see here, I didn't finish drilling all the pilot holes because the task was becoming mind-numbing. I drilled the holes for one of each design that I'm making, and I'll go back to do the rest when I'm ready to start cutting them. Blade size choice is somewhat of a matter of personal preference. Some scrollers try to use the smallest blade possible, where I naturally fall into the camp of those who choose the largest blade possible. The blade chart for the Pegas Modified Geometry blade shows that a number 5 blade can be used for material up to 1 inch thick. In the past, I would have reached for at least a number 7 blade and more likely a number 9 blade. But the primary purpose of this channel is to teach woodworking skills to others, and I feel I owe it to my subscribers to provide as much information as possible with each project. So, with much fear and trepidation, I'm embarking on this project with a number 5 Pegas Modified Geometry blade. The advantage of the smaller blade is that it's better suited for making tight turns, which are plentiful on this project. The disadvantage is that a smaller blade cuts more slowly. A potential disadvantage of this project is that I'm cutting cherry, which tends to burn. If there's any burning on the outside edges of these hearts, I'll be able to clean it up with sandpaper, but any burning on the interior cuts will be nearly impossible to reach. As they say in New York, forget about it. If you're new to scroll sawing, this project will be challenging because of the large number of small interior cuts with 90-degree turns and extremely close spacing. But I'll provide you with plenty of tips and tricks to improve your scrolling and make this project challenging but doable. If you're an experienced scroller, this project may be a place to pick up some new tricks to make your scrolling more enjoyable. I already cut the first T, but don't worry, the techniques I used on that letter will be used again and again in this project. My first tip for cutting small letters that are closely spaced, as in this project, is to cut on the inside rather than right on the lines. The reason is that cutting on the inside of the line leaves a reasonable amount of space between the letters and ensures that the circle in the top part of letters like R stays in place. The R is made in 2 parts to prevent the inner top from falling out. I started cutting with the left side. I always cut letters from left to right, the same way you would read them. The pilot holes are almost as wide as the spaces they're being drilled into, so I had to use the laser on my drill press to position them properly. I slowed the blade to make it less aggressive as I cut down the right side. When I reached the bottom, I needed to make a 90-degree turn, and here's the first cutting tip. When I reach the point where a 90-degree turn is needed, I stop moving the workpiece and leave the blade running. There's plenty of room for the blade to move in the curve just created. I swivel the workpiece 90 degrees to align the blade with the next line, then resume cutting. This is a technique that you should learn and master if you plan on doing much scroll sawing. Like all the letters in this project, the U is in a stencil font, and it has 2 halves. It's really not necessary as it was for the R, but it is needed to maintain a consistent font throughout the project. Accuracy is the key to successfully completing this project. The 2 sides of the U come extremely close together at the bottom. You'll need to cut on the inside of the lines, as I suggested before. You'll also get lots of practice making 90-degree turns, as I counted 8 of them for this letter. If you can master cutting on the inside of the line and making 90-degree turns, you'll have the skills needed to complete this project. Since these letters are small, the task becomes more difficult. But if it were easy, anyone could do it, right? If you can achieve the level of mastery needed to make these cuts, you can call yourself a master craftsman or woman. There are 3 parts to the letter E for this font, and 2 of them are quite small. This is one of those places where a lighted magnifier is almost a necessity. For the 2 smallest segments, you barely complete a 90-degree turn, cut a short straight line, and then have to make another 90-degree turn. It brought to my mind the title of a song by the Byrds, Turn, Turn, Turn. There are no new tips to pass on for the letter L because it consists of a large vertical rectangle and a small horizontal rectangle. I've already shown how to do this letter because it's only a series of 90-degree turns and straight lines. This letter could have been made in one piece, but 2 are necessary to continue using the stencil font. Changing that would have a negative effect on the looks of the finished art. The letter O comes next, and that letter certainly needs to be in stencil font, otherwise there'd just be a big round hole rather than a letter. This letter connects curves with 90-degree turns and some short, straight sections. By now, making those turns should be easier than when he first learned how to do them. The letter V has 2 parts because of the stencil font. The left side is angled rather than vertical like the E or the L, but the angles are near enough to 90 degrees that I can negotiate them in the same manner. However, I handled the right-hand side of the letter slightly differently. When I arrived at the bottom of the line, there was a small acute angle, and it would have been difficult to make. Instead, I backed up to the pilot hole, crossed over to the line on the other side, and made the turn at the easy wide angle, and then I cut across on the bottom line. With most of the cut made and the waste removed, it was easy to clean up the top section. The last letter on this heart is an E, but since I already cut one of those, there's no need to explain how I cut this letter again. I'm still using a number 5 blade, and I'm curious about 2 things. The first question is whether the cut will be slow, so I should switch to a larger blade. The second is whether this cut will cause any burn marks, since cherry is prone to burning. I started cutting at the top of the heart and proceeded to the point where the 2 curves met. It would have been a difficult turn to make from that position, so I backed the blade out and backed it in again dull side first. This left me with an easy turn, and I was off and running on the exterior cut. I'm right-handed, so I use my left hand to hold the workpiece down and my right hand to manipulate it to keep it aligned with the cutting direction. The acute angle where the heart meets the base was easily made, so I have no tip to pass along for that. When you reach the bottom of the side, there's a 90-degree turn, but I've already explained and shown how to make those. I had slowed down the blade for the intricate letter cuts, and I forgot to speed it up again for the exterior cut, but that wouldn't have made a lot of difference in the cutting time. After I completed the exterior cut, I examined the edge all the way around and found no evidence of burning. The evidence so far shows that the number 5 Pegas Modified Geometry blade was a good choice for this project. There are more hearts to cut, but there would be nothing new to show and no new tips to pass along. The heart and base are a single piece, so no assembly is required for this project. I'll use sandpaper to hand sand the edges as they are a bit sharp. Once that's done, I'll take the hearts to the finishing room for a couple of coats of warm satin spray polyurethane. If this project helped you improve your control, accuracy, or competence at the scroll saw, give the video a like and consider subscribing. There are more hearts to cut and plenty more techniques to explore.